There's a specific kind of silence that happens at a counter. You're 34. You're buying car insurance for the first time alone, and the man behind the desk slides a form across and says, "Just need a signature here, sir." And for maybe half a second, that's all some part of you turns to see who he's talking to. Then you remember, he's talking to you. You're the sir. You're the one with the pen. You sign it, your hand doesn't shake. Nothing dramatic happens. But walking out to the parking lot, you're carrying this quiet, embarrassing thought that you'd never say out loud. When is this supposed to start feeling real? Most people assume this is immaturity. That you're dragging your feet, avoiding the work, refusing to grow up on purpose. It isn't that. Here's what's actually happening. Adulthood arrived. It arrived on time, right on schedule, in the form of bills and keys and job titles, and the slow, terrifying realization that nobody is checking your homework anymore. It just arrived on the outside. And on the inside, no one flipped a switch. No one sent a message. The building got built around you and nobody handed you the deed. So you're standing in a life that looks like an adult's life running on a self that never got the update. And it's not a character flaw, it's a gap. A real one with real causes. And once you see where it comes from, it stops feeling like a personal failure and starts looking like a design problem. Because nobody is born feeling like an adult. That feeling has to be built. And for a long time, human beings built it deliberately. Every culture that lasted more than a few generations had rites of passage. Not metaphors, actual events. You went into the forest as one thing and came back as another, and the whole village witnessed it. The point wasn't the ordeal. The point was that afterward, everyone around you treated you differently, and that treatment slowly became the truth. Identity isn't something you decide in private. It's something a group confirms. Now look at what we replaced that with. A driver's license. A graduation you're too hungover to remember. A birthday where the only thing that changes is a number on a form. There's no witness. There's no moment. There's just a slow, unmarked drift. And then there's the second layer, the one that's personal. Because most people who feel this way had one of two childhoods. Either you were protected so carefully that you never got to fail at anything that mattered, every rough edge was sanded down before you touched it, or you were pushed into adult responsibility so early that you performed adulthood before you ever got to be a child. Different roads, same destination, both leave you with a sense of not qualified just for opposite reasons. Once that gap is in you, it shows up in ways that look completely unrelated until you line them up. Watch what happens when you have to make a phone call, not a hard call, a dentist. You need to book a cleaning. And you find yourself rehearsing it in your head, the words, the order what you'll say if they ask something you didn't prepare for. You put it off for 4 days. You finally call, and it takes 90 seconds and it's fine, and you feel this small, ridiculous relief like you got away with something. That rehearsal is a symptom, and it has a name. In 1978, psychologists Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes described what they called the imposter phenomenon, and the key thing they found wasn't that these people lacked achievements. They had plenty. The problem was that the achievements wouldn't stick. Every success got filed under luck, timing someone not looking closely enough. So the evidence pile grows and grows, and the internal verdict never updates. You can hold a job for a decade and still feel like you're on a trial period nobody told you about. That's what a phone call exposes. For a moment, there's no title, no email signature, no scaffolding. Just your voice and a stranger, and the assumption that you're a person who's allowed to schedule things. It's like wearing your father's coat. It fits across the shoulders now, it actually does. And still the sleeves come down over your hands, and you catch yourself pushing them back. Then there's what happens when you go home. Say it's a funeral, or a wedding, doesn't matter. Something with the whole family in one room, and decisions that need making: who's driving, who's calling the relatives, who's handling the thing nobody wants to handle. And you, 38 years old with your own mortgage and your own crises you've handled alone at 2 in the morning, Find yourself standing near the wall, waiting for someone older to decide. Except you look around and there's no one older. There's an uncle who's confused. There's a mother who's crying. That's it. That's the top of the ladder. Family systems researchers have a term for this: role regression. The tendency to snap back into your original position in a system the second you re-enter it. Your brain doesn't store your identity as one solid thing. It stores it in pieces tied to places and people and smells and rooms. Walk into the kitchen you grew up in, and you don't just remember being 12. Something in you becomes 12. The house kept the shape of where you used to sit, and you slide right back into it. But the sign that's hardest to see is the one that looks like freedom. You rent instead of buy. You freelance instead of committing. You stay in relationships that are good but not decided. You've been figuring out the next move for 6 years, and it feels flexible, it feels smart, it feels like keeping your options open, and it is. That's exactly what it is. The psychologist James Marcia mapped the ways people handle identity, and one of the states he named was moratorium, actively exploring, actively refusing to land. It's a normal phase. In your 20s, it's healthy. What Marcia was pointing at, though, is that moratorium can quietly stop being a phase and start being a home. Because every irreversible choice, the house, the child, the contract with your name on it for 30 years, kills every other version of you that could have existed. And if you don't feel qualified to be a person, becoming one specific person feels less like growth and more like an execution. So you don't choose. And you call it freedom. It's a man standing in a hotel lobby with his suitcase still packed. 3 years now. He could take a room. He just doesn't want to be someone who lives here. And the last one arrives without warning. Someone younger asks you for advice, 24 maybe. They ask how you knew how you decided what they should do, and they ask it with this awful sincerity like you have something. And you feel your throat close. Because you don't have anything. You're still asking the same question they are. And now you have to say something, and whatever you say is going to sound like a lie. Erickson called this stage generativity versus stagnation. The task of the middle of life in his framework is to have something worth passing on. And here's the trap: you can't hand down what you don't believe you own. So the moment that's supposed to confirm your adulthood being the one people come to instead becomes the moment it collapses. You feel like a doorman at a building you've never been allowed inside. Now sit with the thought underneath all of this. The one that shows up at 3 in the morning. What if it never comes? What if there's no age, no salary, no milestone, where the feeling finally clicks into place and you just do this for another 40 years? Signing things, being called sir, waiting for the adult to arrive. And worse, what if everyone is doing this? What if the confident ones are also rehearsing phone calls, also standing near the wall, also holding a suitcase they never unpacked? What if the entire world is just children in blazers standing very close together, all quietly hoping someone else is in charge? Sit there for a second, because that's the bottom. And that's also strangely the way out. Here's the first thing. Adulthood is not a feeling. It never was. You've been waiting for an emotional state that does not exist, and while you waited, you were already doing it. The calls, the bills, the crises, handled alone at 2 in the morning. Adulthood is a verb. It's things you do while feeling completely unqualified. The feeling of readiness doesn't precede the act. Sometimes it never shows up at all, and the act still counts. Second, nobody is going to hold a ceremony for you, so hold your own. Make the passage real. Mark it. Buy the thing, sign the thing, have the hard conversation you've been circling for 2 years, and then notice that you did it. Tell someone. Let it be witnessed. Rites of passage worked because they were seen. And you are allowed to build one out of an ordinary Tuesday. Third, and this is the one that costs something. Stop waiting for permission. There is no back room. There is no committee reviewing your file, no adult on the other side of the door about to walk out and say you're ready now. That door was never locked. There was never anyone behind it. And the moment you stop knocking is the moment the whole thing turns, because the person you were waiting for, the one who's supposed to know what to do, that was always supposed to be you. Not a finished version, not a certain one, just you doing it scared. So tell me, what was the moment you first realized nobody was coming to save you? The specific one, the counter, the phone call, the room full of people waiting